Welcome to the program. Former Minister Amos Kimunya arrived at the Milimani courts this morning to face charges related to fraud. Kimunya, who was accompanied by his lawyer, is accused of irregular allocation of public land while he was lands minister. Here are the details.
Following an order from the Director of Public Prosecutions, Keriako Tobiko, Kimunya presented himself at the Milimani Law Courts this morning to answer to charges related to abuse of office. The former lands minister is accused of irregular allocation of public land in Nyandarua County during his tenure as lands minister. According to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the charges are in connection with a 25-acre piece of land, which was part of a 75-acre property belonging to the Ministry of Agriculture. Kimunya, who has been charged alongside the former Director of Land Adjudication, Lilian Jenga, and Chairman of Midlands Limited, Janghe Wanaina, is said to have fraudulently directed the piece of land to be allocated to Midlands Limited, a company in which he was a director and shareholder. Following these developments, Kipipiri Member of Parliament Samuel Gishigi has advised Nyandarua Governor Daniel Waithaka not to engage Midlands Limited in county business until its name is cleared of any form of corruption. Officials from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission have been investigating the issue since last year when a complaint was lodged with the commission. Betty Kyalo, KTN Newsdesk.
From Kimunya, let's go to Meru, and a section of leaders in that county have pledged to work with the government. The leaders were speaking during the homecoming party for Tharaka MP Alex Mburi Moiro, said they will support the government to ensure it meets its pledges to the electorate.
Unajua mkigombana sana mambo inaweza haribika. Tusimame imara, sababu mnajua mtoto hata akizaliwa hawezi kula mahindi the next day. Tukuze mtoto wetu apate nguvu, na najua tutaweza kupata chochote tunaitisha, sababu it's just a matter of time, na Rome was not built in a day.
Basi si ndio iliingia kwa Jubilee, na jana pia tumesema hiyo basi miguu zilipotea, imewekwa mawe. Sasa afadhali iuzwe hiyo basi, tumalizane naye, iishe hiyo maneno.
Trade and diplomatic ties between Kenya and Seychelles have received a boost following the signing of an MOU between the two countries geared at strengthening relations between the two nations. The agreement will also address maritime security, in which piracy has been a big threat, not just to Kenya and Seychelles, but also to the entire Eastern African region.
The relations between our countries are excellent. They're neighborly. We support each other at different fora.
It is very clear that African nations must have more ownership of their maritime spaces.
Right.
And the way to work towards this end is for like-minded countries to work together. So we will enhance our cooperation in terms of fisheries and in terms of exploration and sharing of information relating to maritime spaces. We believe we have a lot to offer each other.
Calm has returned to Kangkong village after a series of meetings between local leaders and local leadership and the security officials in the area. Now, there was tension after a Saturday night raid that led to confrontation between the police and the residents. 2 people were killed in the raids, while another was shot dead by police during the morning demonstration. The area member of parliament now wants the alleged GSU officers who shot the resident to record a statement and explain the meetings. 10 people have so far died in the recent weeks as a result of the raids. Police are now saying they are searching for 3,000 cattle and goats stolen allegedly by neighboring Pokot community in the Saturday night raid. Moving on, Muslim leaders in Mombasa have initiated dialogue with youth from the controversial Musa Mosque that was recently renamed the Masjid Shuhuda. The meeting, organized by Muslim groups Haki Africa, seeks to bridge the communication gaps between young Muslims and their leaders. The forum, which was attended by senior Muslim clerics, resolved to foster peace in the community and address the issue of extremism and radicalization. The leaders also formed a committee tasked with reconciling Sheikh Bahero, who was attacked by the injured youths.
Tumeamua to encourage peace and tolerance and understanding within community, particularly amongst youth and sheikh, ambayo ndio moja katika mada kuu katika mkutano huu. Vile vile tuna condemn the continued killings of Muslim leaders and individuals, and we demand action against killers.
Serikali tunaiomba itupe nafasi kama mashirika ya dini mbalimbali ya Kiislamu, tuangalie matatizo yetu, tusuluhishe ili taifa la Kenya liwe taifa la amani.
Mtu yoyote alompiga mwenzake risasi bila ya provocation, bila ya yule mtu kuwa na intent ya kumdhuru yeye, huyo amevunja sheria, amevunja rules of engagement ambazo ndio zinazohukumu polisi kutumia silaha yake. Mtu huyo ashikwe, ahukumiwe.
Now, details of that particular meeting can be read on our official website, that is standardmedia.co.ke. Coming closer to Nairobi, and property of unknown value was yesterday destroyed following a fire at the Kawangware market. At least 30 stalls were gutted down in the afternoon incident. Traders blamed the fire on an electrical fault. They claim a transformer belonging to the Kenya Power Company burst, leading to fire which began at 4 p.m. Residents are blaming the Kenya Power over the incident, claiming the transformer was faulty and the company had failed to install a new one despite several efforts to repair the transformer. No one was injured in the incident, which destroyed stores dealing with clothes, cereals, electrical appliances and several eateries. Now, she is one of the most prominent women in the land, receiving appointments to serve in very powerful positions both nationally and internationally. We're talking about Ambassador Amina Mohammed, the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, born in 1961. Ambassador Amina, a lawyer and a diplomat, has served as chairman of the International Organization for Migration and in the World Trade Organization, several council and general council. Now, she was also appointed Deputy Executive Director of United Nations Environmental Program by Ban Ki-moon and has served as the permanent representative for the Kenya Diplomatic Mission in Geneva. But aside from her glowing career profile, Amina is a loving wife and a mother of 4 children. She exclusively tells us on a journey to the top, as well as who she will be when she is away from the public glare. Now, you don't want to miss that exclusive piece one-on-one with Amina Mohammed tomorrow night on KTN's Morning Express, rather tomorrow morning on KTN Morning Express. That is in the morning, 7 to 8 a.m. Right, moving on, Kenya Breweries has kicked a restructuring program, and we'll be having that particular report in the other half of this show when we talk matters business. But remember, all the stories that you do see on this particular bulletin can be read on our official website, that is www.standardmedia.co.ke. Coming up on the other half of this show, as I alluded earlier, East African Breweries is set to restructure, and coming with that are layoffs. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is KTN Newsdesk. Kenya Breweries has kicked a fresh round of restructuring as it seeks to increase its efficiency. In particular, the brewer is rationalizing its sales and supplies arms, with a number of employees having already been laid off. Here is KTN's Michael Karanja with that report.
Fresh from posting single-digit growth in sales volumes, East African Breweries is looking to cost-cutting measures to boost profitability. Already the brewer has scaled back on production days, cutting it from 7 to 5 days after a new tax imposed on Senator Keg hiked its price 67% to 45 shillings and cut sales by 85% in the 6 months through December. Now the brewery is turning to its workforce, mainly in the sales and supplies department, as it seeks to bring down its sales and distribution costs. Affected employees were sent redundancy letters on Friday, but are now seeking legal redress over the matter. This is the second restructuring exercise being conducted by the brewer after it did a similar one last year for its top management. The company has set a target of saving 800 million shillings a year on its selling and distribution costs, and is keen to push more canned products into the market. EABL's net profit rose 5.1% to 3.9 billion shillings in the 6 months to December 2013. Michael Karanja, KTN.
Further field, and at least 1,000 people have been killed in Nigeria's central Kaduna state in attacks linked to disputes between ethnic groups after heavily armed men entered 3 villages in the Kaura district in south of the state. It is not clear who was behind the attacks, but residents blame herdsmen from the Fulani community. Central Nigeria has often witnessed violence stemming from disputes over the land and region. Thousands of people have been killed in recent years in violence involving semi-nomadic Fulani herdsmen and the local farmers. The unrest is, however, not connected with the continuing Islamist insurgency carried out by the Boko Haram group, which wants to impose a Sharia law in the northern state. The attackers in Kaduna came only a day after reports emerged of 69 people being killed over several days in northern Katsina state when dozens of armed men arrived in villages on motorbikes. Probably a story that everyone is talking about internationally, with thousands of heavily armed Russian troops occupying this perennially embattled peninsula. An overwhelming majority of Crimeans voted on Sunday to secede from Ukraine and join Russia, resolutely carrying out a public referendum that Western leaders had declared illegal and voted to punish the economic sanctions. Now the outcome in a region that shares a language and centuries of history with Russia was a foregone conclusion even before the exit polls showed more than 93% of voters favoring the secession.
Sevastopol, on the southern tip of the Crimean Peninsula, overwhelming support for the territory to rejoin the Russian Federation as thousands of people turned out to vote in the referendum. Well, this city has extremely close historical and cultural ties with what people call the motherland. It's also the headquarters for Russia's Black Sea Fleet, and the majority of people are Russian-speaking. Well, many describe the day as historic and the first opportunity in decades for the citizens of Crimea to decide their future. I have tears in my eyes. I want to cry. This is such an emotional day. I voted for Russia. We're finally going home. This is a celebration because Russia is spiritually very close to us. It's the motherland, and it's where we've always belonged. We want Putin to be our president. We respect him and his policies. He will protect us. We know life will be better under Russia. While the international community has deemed the referendum illegal and vowed to impose economic sanctions, the voters of Sevastopol say the referendum is the will of the people and that the West should simply butt out. Anna Corin, CNN, Sevastopol on the Crimean Peninsula.
Let's come back home to the county of Kisumu, and an education ministry official yesterday woke up to a bizarre discovery in his compound after a tiny coffin was found next to his gate in Kisumu's Seme constituency. For the 4th time in a year, Elias Oganda, who works with the district education office, awoke to find a tiny coffin with a dead cat inside it. The fire line was carefully laid like a dead person in the wooden structure and sent out as a warning. In the previous 3 incidents, Oganda had found a threatening note warning him not to destroy the paraphernalia, but after burning the material, a new coffin with another dead cat would always turn up.
So I have enough land. I can't have any dispute with anybody over land. So maybe there's somebody. But that's why I'm saying if there is anybody who thinks I've wronged him, whether I have part of his land, let him come out. I've never had any issue, every inland issue.
Tulipata pusi ndani, plus other things decorated, sitadi na gagi iko ndani. Ile material ya kuanika mwenye amekufa iko ndani. Sasa nilichoma nikapeleka kwa mtoni. Baada ya siku 2 wakaleta ingine wakaweka pusi ndani.
It's just me, and in all these bizarre incidents is the cat that is always suffering. Right, and just before we bring this to a landing now, there are some caves in a forest in Gilgil that have housed a particular community for the past 32 years. And it's not a small community after all. Now there are about 500 people living in the caves. And is KTN's Kamcha Menza, who visited the cave dwellers and now shares their plight.
A few kilometers from Kongasi Center, Gilgil town, lies Utut Forest. At a glance, it is impossible to tell that there are human beings living in caves within this forest. It is a hard terrain, but not for Charles Chepkoni. This has been his home for the last 20 years, and at one point, he lived here with his wife and children.
Na hii ni ya kufunika naye. Ni wakati naenda kazi ndio wanafanya naye.
His is not the only cave here. Chepkoni is just one among 500 inhabitants of these caves.
Waje kuishi kwa hii mapango ni shida. Siko menda kwetu.
Kasemekana watu wanachoma makaa hapa. Tupate chakula ya kukula. Sasa utafanya nini? Utakula nini na watoto?
Mpaka watu wale tulikuwa kwa hawa pamoja wakapatika wakapata shamba, sisi tukakosa. Sasa ndio tukaona hapa ni apatali kwa sababu mahali kama hapa hatukomboi.
The residents claim to have relocated here after they found themselves landless at a place in Lari in 1982, and the caves came in handy, but not just for accommodation. Many eyed the charcoal burning business, a business they say up to date puts food on their tables.
Wakati aliandikiana akasemekana hii kitambulisho si ni ya wapi, si ya Nakuru. Ati sasa hii kitambulisho mwenye hapo kitambulisho kutoka Baringo, kutoka wapi. Sasa sisi hakupata shamba. Akasemekana hii kitambulisho ni mwenye aliandika rare kitambulisho ndio napata nini? Napata shamba.
Kupika 1978 hiyo shamba ikapeanwa. Kupeanwa wenye walichukua sisi watu waliandikwa na hatukupewa. Wala walipewa sisi tukawa squatter ndani yao. Tukakaa. Wakakuja wakalima shamba mpaka nalima raundi ya nyumba. Sasa watoto wakitembea nje anasema mnaharibu vitu yetu mpaka nyumba ikaanguka.
But even as dangerous as it may seem, these caves have for a long time provided shelter to over 500 people living in Utut.
Tumeishi kwa miaka mingi.
30 years down the line, the inhabitants have had to contend with various challenges, including attacks by wild animals. And now there's an entirely new problem, that of environmental degradation.
Sasa hata hiyo ngine inaitwa poro ndio alipikwa na nyati. Na yeye Kashuri alipikwa na nyati asubuhi akienda maji. Anakongwa. Hata bahati tumbe ngatobolewa na hiyo nyati. Na yeye poro tena alikuwa hapa ndipo ajuza kafariki.
Yes, Captain. They claim that they have all suffered a mysterious disease allegedly caused by insect bites, and they also claim that for some unknown reasons, some of them are slowly losing their eyesight and even parts of their bodies.
Sasa nifanye hivi sungu nyinyi yote ni kisa hasa ndio natumisa hii sasa nachunga sasa kama mtoto mdogo hii.
A certain section within the forest has been set aside for Sunday prayers. The residents meet here to exchange ideas and offer solace to one another.
Watu wetu tukikutana hapa ili tukishukuru Mungu kwa sababu sisi ni watu tuna shida nyingi na lazima tumkumbushe Mungu shida zetu kila mara. Pia katika hapa kanisani huwa tunakuja kuangaliwa na watu ambao wa hisani njema wanaotuletea misaada, chakula, wengine hulete mpaka nguo, na upande mwingine wanatuletea matibabu.
Kamchemenza, KTN in Utut, Gilgil, Nakuru County.
It is said that in this day and age, people are living in caves. Let us know what you think about that story. You do know their website is standardmedia.co.ke and the official handle is at KTN Newsdesk. But talk of that website, top stories include Kimunya denies charges and it is released on $1 million shillings cash bail. Also, Moscow wins as overwhelming people in that part of the country vote that Crimea should indeed rejoin Russia. But to wrap this bulletin nicely, no better way than a did you know fact. With the absence of Edith, I can still do it. And so, did you know that North Korea uses a fax machine to send threats to South Korea in this time and age? My name is Bonitunya. I'll see you again in the evening for business. Good afternoon.